Hey, what's up, fellow anglers? Aaron LeSieur here. I'm coming to you with another fishing report. And yes, I know, it's Folsom Lake again, but I live 5 minutes from that lake and I get to put a lot of time in on the water out there. But I do plan on hitting some other bodies of water here soon, like the Delta, maybe back up to Clear Lake. Haven't been to Oroville for a while, to mix it up a little bit and give you guys some other fishing reports for here in Northern California. So let's get right to it. I fished a couple of days last week, and then this past Sunday went out in the early morning. Now we just had that crazy front roll through, so the weather conditions kind of got all screwy last week. I fished mid last week, and it was really hot. It's like 90 something out there in the evening. And then a couple of days later, it's in the 70s, cloud cover. We had some rain roll through, and then Sunday morning we had some more cloud cover. It was absolutely beautiful out there. So let's talk about the conditions that are going on right now. The lake levels, the water temps, the air temps, even though those kind of varied throughout the week with that cold front that came through. And then like I said, the lake levels, the highest I've seen it ever since I've lived out here. I can't remember ever seeing it this high. They did have 5 gates open last week. Then it went down to 3, and I drove by there yesterday. It's 0. So I think they're just trying to get this thing at capacity. It should be there pretty quick. So let's talk about where I fished. Now I went up into the south arm all 3 days, and I fished in a spot or an area that I've never fished before. I've been on this lake a bunch of times, fished out of here a bunch of times. I've never fished past the 5-mile-an-hour buoys out there at Salmon Falls. And this time of the year, the boat traffic is crazy. You got all, the warm weather hits, the pleasure boaters are out, the lake is full. So if it's after 11 o'clock out there on the lake, especially during the weekends, it's pure madness. So I wanted to get up there past the 5-mile-an-hour buoys up in the Salmon Falls area to stay away from all that. So I could just get out there and fish and not worry about, wakeboarders and all the wakes come crashing through. And I had never fished out there, so I kind of had to figure out what I was going to do and find some areas. I went onto Google Earth and the lake levels were really low, so I was able to see where some of the rockier areas were and where the points were. So basically, I kind of went through a bunch of different rods and techniques, and I narrowed it down to 2, and here's what I had. So I had a topwater bite, and then I had a drop shot bite. So in the early morning and then in the evenings, both times it worked, about an hour after, maybe 2 hours after daybreak, and then about an hour before the sunset, I was throwing around this little D-pop. This was by Damiki. This little D-pop right here, it's actually stuck in my reel. That's great. Cut. So this is the D-pop 70. It's by Damiki. It's a shad pattern. It's basically all white. It's got a little feather treble on the back. So this is basically what I was throwing out there. It's on 10-pound monofilament line. I got it tied up with a double uni knot on 20-pound braid. Now I use the mono because the mono floats, and it's a little stiffer than the braid. So instead of just going straight braid to this, the braid gets super limp, and sometimes it'll get fouled up in these hooks when you're twitching it or even on the cast. The mono, a little stiffer, and it still floats, and so it doesn't get fouled up on the hooks as easy. So not messing up my cast as many times as the braid would. So I got the D-pop on here. This is the Dobbins. This is the 704 CB. It's a crankbait rod, so it's got a little bit more parabolic and a soft tip and easy to cast in tight areas up there. There were a few little bit of trees that were in the water that you wanted to make casts underneath. 20-pound braid. It's the Power Pro, and this is just on an Abu Garcia Revo STX 6-4-1. So basically what I was doing with this was two things I was doing. During the week when I was by myself, I would just parallel the bank, go down the bank in areas where I saw chunky rocks visually up above the water. Where the rocks were chunky, I would go and fish those areas, and I'd keep my eye on my sonar to see what areas had rocks underneath that would attract those bass. And so I would kind of put that in my memory bank when I fished out there the next day. So I looked for those visual cues, any trees in the water, any chunky rocks, and I would just run the bank and just give it just a little 2-pop retrieve, just pop, pop, pause, pop, pop, pause, and just run the banks doing that. Now I'm not killing them doing that, but I'm getting a couple bites every time I do it. 2 bites in the evening, a couple bites in the morning. Nothing big, a couple, 1.5 pounders here, 1 pounders, but it's still fun. Anytime you're catching topwater fish, it's always fun to see them crash on that thing and watch it, hear it. It's pretty awesome. On Sunday, I had a friend in the boat with me, so instead of paralleling the bank and then backseating him, we were off the bank about 15 yards and throwing it up tight and then bringing it back to the boat, and we got some bites up tight. And surprisingly enough, we got some bites that were about 15 yards off the bank, maybe some of those suspended fish that were coming up and hitting that bait. Again, we didn't kill them, just a few bites here and there. We fished both sides of the bank going all the way up to Salmon Falls and got a few bites in the morning doing that. So when then later on in the afternoons, the sun really didn't come up on Sunday. It was pretty cloudy all day, but as that topwater bite just kind of got a little less and a little less, we switched over to a drop shot. Now, let me back up. I did try, and while I was out there learning the area a little bit, I tried a bunch of other techniques. I deep cranked, I threw a Huddleston, an underspin. I didn't get bit on those other two baits, but I did get bit on the underspin, but it was producing, 1-pounders here and there. I wasn't knocking the lights out on them. So I tried those baits. I did catch some fish on a nail-weighted Senko, 6-inch out there, but they were hitting it on the fall. So if I had to go out there and do it again, I would just put it on that weightless Senko, wacky, throw it up there tight and bring it back out into about 20 feet and see if I could get some of those fish to eat it on the fall. But what I did, the main bait I've been using out there, catching a bunch of fish on it. I caught the biggest fish of those 3 days was, I think it was 3. I didn't weigh it, but it was pretty big. It was the biggest spotted bass I've caught out in that area on a drop shot. This is just your Kitech 3.8, and this is the shad pattern. It's just black and white on the bottom with a 1/4 ounce teardrop drop shot weight. 10-pound P-line leader on 20-pound Power Pro braid, Revo SX reel. This is the Dobbins 683 SF. Nice soft tip on this. So when I catch a fish using this rod, I just let it load up. I just kind of lean into the fish and let them pull and hook themselves. This Damiki Viper hook right here, this is the Damiki Drop Shot Viper 1/0 hook. Really sharp, and it just, the fish, just the weight of them pulling back on the rod, it basically hooks them. I don't have to do any hard hook set on them, maybe a little bit of a sweep on there. But basically what I'm doing is I'm going down those same areas that I was looking for with the poppers, throwing it to the chunk rock in about 4 feet of water, bringing it out to about 20 feet. I'm catching some fish on the fall, and then I'm catching some fish when I'm bouncing it off the bottom. Now I'm using that 1/4 ounce weight, one, because I like to get that weight down a little faster and I can feel the bottom, versus let's say a 3/8 ounce, which I can't feel the bottom as good or with that weight, and if I use a 1/2 ounce, it's just too heavy, it gets hung up in everything. So those are basically the two main setups that I used out there that I was catching the most fish. Caught a lot of fish, but like 15 on Sunday. I can't remember how many I caught on the other 2 days, but it's a lot. Nothing really big, but it's been a lot of fun out there. And like I said, I'm trying to get away from the boat traffic up there in that area. Now, just like any other areas on the lake, you're gonna get those people who are inconsiderate. There were these two knuckleheads, check this out, that were racing up and down there on their jet skis doing like 60 miles an hour. That's what it seemed like because they were going so fast. You're going to get those people, a few of them here and there. There were a couple other boats that weren't abiding to the 5 mile an hour, but for the most part, it was pretty pleasant up there. You're still going to get some of those knuckleheads. Just trying to avoid them as many as I can. Obviously, I still can't avoid them all, as you can see. So put together a little bit of footage of some of those fish catches for you guys to see here right at the end of this video. So if you're liking what you see, make sure you subscribe, hit the like button, throw down a comment. Now I'm heading out this week to shoot the promo and a couple pilot shows for The Truth. I haven't really talked about it a whole lot. New series I've been putting together and working on. Something a little different. Not anybody else is doing what this idea is, so I'm hoping you guys are going to like it. So stay tuned for that. It should be up in the next few weeks after we get it shot, do the editing. So until next time, stay focused, fish hard, and I'll see you out on the water.